There's a lot of speculation going on right now. There's a lot of chatter, a lot of noise, and I am loving it. So, through all of this, we are going to whittle our way down to the 5 moves that I find the most interesting that I've seen people saying could possibly happen coming up to this year's NFL draft. So, before we get into it, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. It really helps out a lot. Hit that notification bell as well if you haven't already. And without further ado, make sure you got your tea and let's get right into it. So here are 5 moves that could happen on or before draft day. Say what's up to the kitty. Deebo Samuel to the New York Jets. I think this is one of the most intriguing situations in the whole NFL draft. Deebo Samuel has made it obvious that he does not want anything to do with the San Francisco 49ers, and he didn't even want to hear any sort of contract negotiation from them. He just said, I want out, and only 2 people know what's going on in this world with Deebo Samuel. One of them is Deebo, the other one is the front office for the San Francisco 49ers. Why do I think this is even possible, though? Well, the New York Jets were already in the Tyreek Hill saga, so we know they're trying to be aggressive at getting one of these premier wide receivers in the league. They already have multiple first-round picks. They still have the 104 in their pocket along with the 110. And reports are, and I don't know who's leaking this, but reports are that they're willing to trade the 110 to get Deebo Samuel now. I know right now the San Francisco 49ers are trying their darndest to keep Deebo on their roster because, as you know, he is a very versatile piece, a guy that was one of their key components to their offense last year that really thrived when they got Deebo Samuel the ball. Now, I don't know that their efforts are going to help at all. Deebo Samuel obviously wants out. He's made it clear. His cryptic tweets have made it abundantly more clear to us and to everybody else that he no longer wants to be in California to even play football. So going to the East Coast, to the New York Jets makes a whole lot of sense, and I could just see this happening. This is one of the most interesting, but yet one of the most likely scenarios that could happen coming up to this year's draft. So the Chiefs move up and nab an explosive weapon. Now, I've heard, amongst other reports, that the Chiefs do not even have a first-round grade on the guys that they think would fall to them at the 29 and 30 slot. Now, given that they have a lot of targets to fill now that Tyreek has left in free agency, Travis Kelce's getting older, they have Mahomes on a huge contract, and they're already struggling with the cap right now. Not only does this buy the Chiefs time, gives them an explosive weapon, but also gets them out of the conundrum that they're in with them not being able to get a guy that they really covet at the 29 or 30 position that they're already in. So doing this makes a whole lot of sense. I've heard people pegging them to guys like Jameson Williams, Garrett Wilson if they decide to try to be that aggressive, Drake London. I've heard a lot of different names being thrown out there. Even George Pickens, I think he is kind of a sleeper in this year's draft. But all these players could possibly be an upgrade, would definitely be an upgrade to the Chiefs wide receiver core that is quite desperate for a lead dog. And this just makes a whole lot of sense to me for the Kansas City Chiefs. So Chiefs move up, nab an explosive weapon. So the Lions trade up from their 32nd or their 202 position to nab a quarterback. Now, you might be asking the question, why would they do that? Well, at the beginning of the offseason, the Detroit Lions were talking about how Jared Goff is our guy. We're standing behind him. He was really impressive towards the end of last year, and I think that's true. But with Goff running out of time on his contract, mixed with the fact that they needed direction to go as a franchise, I think taking a guy, drafting him, letting him sit a year, marinating under Jared Goff, which they've been very vocal about how Jared Goff would be a great mentor for a young quarterback, makes a whole lot of sense for the Detroit Lions. Now, I'm not saying that there are any elite level prospects, but if Brad Holmes has found a diamond in the rough, he really wants a player, he will be aggressive, and he's shown that time and time again with some of the moves that he has made. So I could see them taking one of their two later top 34 picks, or both of them, and trading up to nab a guy that they really covet. So that's an interesting one to watch, but I think we should definitely be keeping an eye out for that move to happen come Thursday night. This one is an exciting one from a fantasy perspective, but also makes my life a little bit harder, as it's harder to evaluate some of these players, especially because a lot of these players thrive based on their draft capital, but not all of them necessarily will get the same opportunities depending on where they go. So if you look at the 2021 NFL playoffs, and this is why I think this is going to end up this way, every team that was left in the last four had a weapon on their team that was elite. Whether it was Jamar Chase, whether it was Cooper Kupp or Odell Beckham, whether it was Deebo Samuel, or just any of these guys. You even saw the Buffalo Bills. I know they weren't in the last four, but you see the Buffalo Bills with Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis showed some flashes. I mean, these teams were offensive-driven teams. Now, this is a very top-heavy wide receiver class as well. So coupling what we saw at the end of 2021, mixed with the fact that there are a lot of very, very talented wide receivers in the draft class, it makes a whole lot of sense for there to be 5 wide receivers in the top 20 picks, especially if you look at the teams and their needs. And the one thing that I want to mention as well, the market is on the rise. And if you don't go the grassroots, homegrown approach to getting a wide receiver, you will be paying top dollar for anybody who is an above average wide receiver. The Christian Kirk deal did that to the market. Now it's just going bonkers. That's probably part of the reason why Deebo wants out. That's probably, even though he says it's not, part of the reason why Tyreek had to move from the Chiefs, part of the reason why Devontae Adams had to leave the Packers. Even if we just got to look at it as just a whole right now. I think a lot of teams are going to have the incentive to draft a wide receiver and make it work for a handful of years so that they can pay a quarterback, which the market's also going up on the quarterbacks. It just makes a whole lot of sense for a bunch of skilled position players to go early so that these teams can try to develop an elite level offense without having to pay them elite level money. So the last one I want to talk about, and I think this makes the most sense, and I think this is the least controversial out of all these, but Malik Willis to the Panthers. Now, I love Malik Willis. I think he's the only quarterback prospect I would give a first-round grade on in this year's NFL draft, but Matt Rule's going to make a break here. And they've had some quarterback woes. I mean, they signed Cam Newton out of desperation last year. Sam Darnold looked like a different quarterback after the first month of the season. And obviously there are no other options as of right now. So who else is Matt Rule going to go out and get? Is he going to go out and try to trade for Baker Mayfield? With what he showed in Cleveland, I don't think Baker Mayfield's necessarily the answer. If they decided to skip on Malik Willis, I guess Baker Mayfield could be an option because Cleveland is kind of be out of options at that point. Either they're going to cut him or they're going to ask for next to nothing in return for him. So that could be an option. But I think for upside purposes, to get the ownership excited about the Panthers moving forward and to really give Matt Rule something to think about, I think drafting Malik Willis, putting him in a situation to thrive with an already good roster, one of the best defenses in the league, mind you. I think Malik Willis, definitely a great fit there in Carolina. And even if he struggles, has up and down years, if Matt Rule can at least show that they have a flash of greatness, I think Matt Rule could possibly keep his job. And I think it just is a no-brainer for the Panthers if he does drop to the 106. So those are my 5 predictions. Let me know if you think there are any other crazy things that are going to happen coming up to Thursday. Let me know in the comment section what you want me to talk about next. Please, like I said, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It really helps out the channel. And we'll see you next time on Simply's Fantasy Football. Thanks for watching.